In the untouched expanses of Australia's Northern Territory, where crystal clear rivers meander through age-old landscapes, we find the captivating story of Ginger Meadows. It's a story that perfectly captures the excitement of an adventure against the backdrop of the harsh, relentless forces of nature. This tale is a poignant reminder of the thrill and dangers that await in the remote wilderness. Back in 1984, Ginger, a spirited young woman hailing from Charlottesville, Virginia, began a new chapter of her life by moving to Snowmass Village, just a stone's throw away from Aspen, Colorado, with Dwayne, her newly wed husband. However, as the years ticked by, their marriage started to crumble, pushing Ginger towards a bold decision. In need of a fresh start and fueled by her adventurous spirit, she jetted off to Australia in February 1987. Upon landing, she reunited with her old friend Debbie and her husband. Together they ventured to Fremantle, Western Australia, drawn by the buzz of America's Cup races, a prestigious yacht competition that gripped the globe as Australia aimed to defend its title after the historic win of Australia 2 in 1983. This electric atmosphere of the high stakes and open seas was exactly what Ginger needed to dive into. Around this time, Ginger and her friends caught a screening of the iconic film Crocodile Dundee, a movie that paints a vivid picture of the vast and enticing Australian outback. Captivated by the allure of the rugged landscapes and untamed wilderness, Ginger was quickly drawn to the thrill of exploration and adventure. Not long after, she soon landed a job as a chef's assistant aboard the Lady G, which was a 105-foot luxury yacht under the command of skipper Bruce Fitzpatrick. She joined a crew that included engineer Steve Hilton and stewardess Madeline James. Together, they set out on a mission to relocate the yacht back to Darwin, embarking on a journey that stretched 2,259 nautical miles along the majestic coast of Western Australia. This wasn't just a job for Ginger, it was the beginning of a grand adventure. By the end of March, the Lady G was navigating the secluded waters of Northern Australia. The crew, free from the responsibilities of attending to paying guests, relished in the peace of the open sea. It was a particularly liberating escape for Ginger, who was trying to put distance between herself and the remnants of her troubled marriage back home. However, she was about to enter the most perilous chapter of her life. On a quiet Sunday, March 29th, Ginger joined skipper Bruce Fitzpatrick, chef Jane Burkett and the rest of the crew on a small speedboat bound for an extraordinary spot on the north coast of the Kimberley, Kings Cascade. This stunning terraced waterfall, towering 130 feet, loomed over a secluded cove roughly the size of a football field. It was a picture-perfect slice of untouched wilderness where rainbow-misted waters cascaded into a pool below, encircled by a rocky escarpment dense with lush trees and vibrant plant life. However, despite the serene vigils and a total absence of warning signs, skipper Bruce Fitzpatrick was acutely aware of the hidden dangers lurking beneath those tranquil waters. The saltwater crocodile, commonly known as the salty, posed a real threat. These ancient predators, which can grow up to 6 meters long, are opportunistic hunters, seeing anything that enters their domain as a potential prey. Once something is caught in their formidable jaws, escape is virtually impossible. These powerful creatures are known to drag even large cattle from the riverbank into the water. To give you a sense of their strength, salties can clamp down with a force of about 3,700 pounds per square inch, PSI. And to put that in perspective, the best a human can muster is around 200 psi, and even lions typically top out at just over 1000 psi. So the bite of a salty is not merely a grip, it's a devastating force that crushes bones and obliterates anything in its path. So just after 11 AM, their small boat quietly approached the serene waters of Kings Cascade. As Ginger and the crew disembarked onto the rocks to explore the ledges, Bruce Fitzpatrick issued a stern warning about the dangers lurking beneath the seemingly placid surface. He advised them emphatically, not even a toe should touch the water's edge. Yet the breathtaking beauty of the place made it such a hard thing to believe, especially when tourist brochures showed people swimming blissfully in the bay with not even a single warning sign in sight. After ensuring his crew was safely at the base of the falls, Bruce left them to begin their climb to the top. He stayed in the boat, heading further upriver to capture some photographs of the stunning scenery. A short while later, he returned, moored the boat, and then himself started to ascend to the top of the 30-metre high falls, eager to join his crew and see the view from above. By this time, Ginger and Jane had just begun their climb up the cliff when Ginger suddenly remembered she'd left her camera in the boat. Seeing Bruce returning, they decided to head back to retrieve it. The reason behind their next move remains unclear. Perhaps they were looking for a shortcut to an easier ascent up the cliff, or maybe they wanted to position themselves for a better photo opportunity. But regardless of their intent, the clear warning about the dangers of the water that Bruce had impressed upon them was momentarily forgotten. After retrieving the camera from the boat at the water's edge, Ginger and Jane decided to swim back across the pool to the rock ledge at the base of the falls. As the group's leader, Bruce's focus wasn't solely on his own climb up the cliff. He remained vigilant about his crew's safety. From his vantage point at the cliff top, he spotted Ginger and Jane entering the water, a concerning sight on its own, but the situation quickly escalated to dire. Bruce saw a 3 to 4 metre crocodile silently gliding towards the women. He immediately shouted to get them out of the water, but they were trapped, waist deep on a ledge with a sheer rock wall behind them. They had nowhere to escape. The crocodile, its tail propelling it stealthily through the water, with its jaws agape and teeth bared, was now just 15 feet or about 4.5 metres away. And in that moment, Ginger and Jane faced the harrowing reality. There was no escape and no time to wait for help. They needed to act, to do anything to try and regain some control over this perilous situation. Both understandably terrified, Ginger clung tightly to Jane's arm. In a desperate attempt to fend off the crocodile, Jane screamed and threw her shoe at it. The animal seemed momentarily confused, but it was clear it had no intention of abandoning its attack. Faced with rapidly diminishing options, Ginger turned to Jane and asked, "What do we do now?" But before Jane could answer, Ginger, overcome with panic, dove into the water, aiming for a dry bank about 75 feet or 22 metres away, a distance most competent swimmers could manage quickly. Considering their observed slow, steady approach of the crocodile, Ginger's decision to flee might seem rational compared to remaining motionless, even with a 50% chance of a fatal attack. However, she underestimated the crocodile's superior swimming abilities. She had barely covered a few metres before the predator surged forward, its powerful jaws clamping down on her upper legs and hips, encompassing the full width of her bikini-clad body, then dragging her beneath the surface. This was not a swift, clean kill as one might see in a movie. Nature is brutal, with predators indifferent to the suffering of their prey. Just metres away, Jane watched in horror as the crocodile momentarily resurfaced, Ginger trapped in its jaws, silently reaching out for help, her face etched with confusion and terror, and before long, dragged back down to her tragic end. One can only imagine the turmoil in Jane's mind. Witnessing such a horrific violence, a fleeting sense of relief that it was not her, mixed with the terror that she might be next. After a relentless search, Ginger's body was tragically recovered 2 days later, armless and face down on the tidal flats, roughly 1 kilometre from where she was attacked, presumably stored there by the crocodile for later consumption. Her remains were carefully placed in a body bag and transported upriver in a modest 7 metre or 23 foot boat. However, the ordeal wasn't over and the crocodiles were not done with her yet. As the boat made its way about 15 kilometres upriver, a 3.5 metre crocodile made a dramatic leap from the water, striking at the body bag and tearing it open, only to be driven off by a gunshot from a crew member. Concerned about further attacks, the crew decided to turn back, anchoring in St George Basin to wait for a larger vessel that could safely transport Ginger's remains. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Ginger's estranged husband Dwayne McCauley travelled from the United States to Australia, hoping to identify her remains. Unfortunately, due to the condition of her body, he was unable to do so, but nevertheless he returned to the United States with her remains. Tragically, Ginger Meadows would have celebrated her 25th birthday on March 30th, the day after her life was abruptly and violently ended. One of the reasons I'm drawn to these harrowing stories, despite their tragic nature, is that they allow us to safely step back into someone else's shoes from the comfort of our own homes. We get the chance to ponder how we might react in similar circumstances, guided by the knowledge and experiences of those involved. Now, over the years, there's been some baseless speculation that Ginger didn't jump into the water to escape, but was instead pushed by Jane to divert the crocodile's attention away from herself. While there's no evidence to support this theory, it does provoke a deep introspective question. What would you do in such a situation? Would you let nature take its course? Sacrifice human morals to save yourself? Or would you confront the danger head on? I'll leave that with you to consider. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story, and I look forward to sharing with you in the next one.